Hello and welcome to the Right Fight Podcast, a discussion about how to live a loving life. I'm Reg Lloyd, and we're having a conversation with Kenny Bond. So Kenny, today we get to move to chapter 6 of your book, where you write about what love is. And your definition goes beyond the common assumption that love is an emotion or a feeling. You write in the book, you say love is a choice, an action that gives freely, unselfishly, unconditionally, without asking anything in return. It doesn't put a limit or a trade-in value on the giving. So to start, would you explain the difference between love as an emotion or a feeling versus love as a choice or an action?
Most of my life, I thought love was a feeling. I can remember I had a friend one time, and when we hadn't known each other long yet, and he always told me he loved me. And it wasn't just weird to me, it bothered me. It really did, and sometimes
How old were you?
Tell him, I was 28 maybe or so, and he was probably 10 years older than me. He was probably 38. But it was always like, bye, I love you. Hey, constantly. And I'm like, I'm just thinking, you don't even know me. Quit telling me you love me. And really from my perspective, he was discounting love and using it cheaply, because I felt like, if you don't know me, how can you love me? And I don't know you. I mean, we're friends, but we don't know each other that well yet. I don't know if I love you or not. Okay? And so, and I grew up in a home, by the way, just so you understand, I grew up in a home, like my mom and dad told me they loved me constantly. We loved each other. We knew each other. We loved each other. It wasn't like we were didn't have a loving family. That wasn't why it was weird to me. It was just that I had this idea that love was something that it really wasn't. And believe it or not, he actually understood what love was, and I didn't at all. So I couldn't make sense of it. And I would tell him frequently, like, man, quit telling me you love me, dude. You don't know who I, in 5 years, after we really know each other, if you want to tell me you love me, that'll mean something to me. But right now, it doesn't mean anything to me. But what I've learned since is that if you only love people that you know, maybe you don't love. In other words, if I only love you because I know you, and I know that, and what I know makes you lovable to me, then I'm not really loving you. I'm loving what I'm getting from you, or I'm loving what I see in you, or I'm respecting, or I'm approving of what you're doing. And then, if you stop doing that, I would stop loving you. And that's not love at all. So I hear people frequently say, you can't love someone until you know them. But I would say now, all these years later, what I would say is, if you don't love someone before you know them, what makes you think you're going to love them after you know them? Because love is not the feeling. I think that's the big deal, is that I had to learn that love was not the feeling. It wasn't what I felt for you because of the way you behaved or acted. It was my choice to do and desire what was best for you, and I would do that whether you love me or not, whether you were my enemy or my friend. Regardless of who you are, I would love you. So I had to learn, and it's taken years, right? But I had to learn that not only was love not a feeling, like Webster's tells us that it is. The dictionary tells it's an emotion, a strong feeling. It's all these other things. Not only is it not that, it's actually the choice. But what does that mean? And I struggled a long time. Okay, what's a choice? I can remember when Tammy and I went to marriage counseling class, and the couple told us, one of the first things they told us was that love was a choice. And I'm thinking, that my first thought was, okay, they're smart, probably smarter than me. Maybe love's a choice. So I started thinking about it. Even while they're talking, I'm not even listening to them anymore. I'm still thinking about, is love a choice or not? And I conclude that that's really not true because I don't choose what I feel for Tammy. But right now I'm thinking love is this feeling I have for Tammy. So I conclude that love is not a choice at all because I don't choose to feel what I feel for her. So then how could love be a choice? But the problem was I thought that the feeling of love was what was love. That's why I couldn't understand what they were trying to tell me. And so what I've learned over time, I say it like this often, you may say, you can ask me if I love Tammy, and I would tell you that I love her with all my heart if I'm talking about the feeling of love, meaning that, this feeling that I have. Do you love your wife? Oh, man, I love her with all my heart. But if you really want to know if I love Tammy, you don't need to ask me. You need to ask her. And I know that can be confusing, but think about this with me for a second. What I'm saying is that this is what I've learned, and this is where the lights can come on if you think about this. My feelings of love for Tammy are not for no reason at all. They're the fruit of love. So where is the love that results in me feeling love for Tammy? Where's the actual love that results in this fruit? So the feelings of love that I have for her are mostly because she loves me. The feelings of love she has for me are mostly because I'm loving her. So if you ask me if I love her and I say you need to ask her, what I'm saying is if I love Tammy, she would say she feels love for me. Normally, sometimes we can love people and they don't feel love, but because I'm patient, this is what love is. This is me loving Tammy.
This is where you talk about the choice.
That's right. This is the choice. Yeah. So me loving Tammy is not me feeling love for Tammy. That's what I'm saying. Me loving Tammy is being patient, being kind, being truthful, protecting her, trusting, hoping, persevering in love. Those are all choices. Mm-hmm. Those aren't feelings. Mm-hmm. And many times I got to make those choices despite what I feel. But that's me loving her. So if you ask me if I love her, I'm saying, go ask her. Am I patient? Am I kind? Do I protect her? Am I trusting? Am I persevering in love? That's the actual loving. So then she's going to feel loved. Mm-hmm. And then Tammy loving me is the same thing. And you may think, okay, this is too much, it's a lot to think about, whatever. But think about this. Maybe this will help kind of flush it home. If you ask me if I love my wife, Tammy, I'm just talking about the feelings, okay? I'm back to just the feelings here. And I tell you, I love her with all my heart. And I don't really know what love is. And then Tammy becomes, what's really happening there, Tammy's loving me is what I'm saying. But then Tammy becomes the 8 things love is not. She quits loving me. So Tammy
becomes...
True test. Yeah. So she becomes angry, rude, envious, boastful. She's selfish. She's delighting in an evil. And she does that for a year or two, and you come back and say, hey, do you love your wife? Well, I would probably tell you, no, not any longer. I fell out of love with her. But I didn't fall out of love with her. And now I'm talking about feelings here, okay? I'm just talking about the feeling of love that I have for my wife. But I didn't fall out of love with her. The love fell away because she quit loving. That's the feelings, okay? The actual loving, if I really love her, and she quits loving me, I'm not going to quit loving her. I'm going to persevere in love. I'm going to continue to be patient, kind, truthful, protect her, trust, hope, persevere. And again, that doesn't mean that I cheer her on while she's not loving. It doesn't mean that I enable or encourage her to be selfish or to delight in evil. I mean, it actually means the opposite. If I love her, I don't want her doing any of those things. So I won't help her do any of that. I might have to distance myself from her. I don't know, whatever I have to do. But anything I can that I believe is best for her, that would be continue to love her. So I may not feel love for her anymore, but if I really love her, I'll continue in that. And I think what's so powerful about this is that can help so many couples and so many people is we come to a relationship because we think we fell in love. But in reality, on some level, we're choosing to love each other. So the feeling of love is in our relationship. Or in some cases, maybe we're using love to get what we want. We're manipulating, and it just hadn't come out yet. But on some level, there's some kind of love, practice of love going on, and this love is here. Well, then over time, people say they fell out of love. The problem with believing that you fall in love and believing that you fall out of love is that it's 100% beyond your control. And if that's the truth, and you believe that you fell out of love, it's like, why stick this out? Why persevere? I'm just persevering in forever suffering. And it takes two people. Okay, I'm not suggesting that if you have one person that's willing to love and one that's totally unwilling to love, the loving person would have to step back, because they're not going to help them not love, because them not loving is not best for them. But if you believe it's all this feeling and you have no control over it, it's no wonder so many people throw in the towel. But the good news is it's not a feeling, and you don't fall in love and you don't fall out of love. You can make a decision today. Two people can make a decision today to say, from here forward, I'm going to choose to love you despite the fact that I don't like you. Mm-hmm. You don't have to like somebody to love them. But it's almost, two people can't love each other for long before they start liking each other again. And it may seem like, hey, I'll never like this person again. I despise them, everything about them. But I'm just telling you, if those two people, despite how they feel, will choose to really love again, both start fighting to be patient, kind, truthful, protecting the other, trust and hope and persevering in love, it's only a matter of time before the feeling of love starts showing back up. I don't care how far away it went. And so what I'm trying to say is that is the decision to love that results in this fruit of love. But if we fight for this fruit, which I did most of my life, and then you're angry and you're rude, you took some of my fruit, some of my feeling of love. I mean, me and Tammy, we love each other, okay? And we really do. We feel so much love for her. But, I mean, today we could get in an argument, and one of her famous lines is, I don't like you. I mean, the other day she told me that, I don't like you, for good reason, and I really do. But I was like, I don't like you either. Like, I really don't. At least not right now, okay? So the feelings come and go like lightning. But the love itself, if we're willing to persevere in it, it'll result in the feelings you're looking for. So don't fight for these feelings. Fight to love. And watch the love take care of itself, restore itself. It always does. Love never fails. We just fail to love.
So you've said that you don't have to feel love to love.
Right.
Which turned a light bulb on for me to say I don't have to receive love to give love. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Not from people, I would say. There is a source of love, and that is Jesus. And it's a great question. Thank you for bringing that up. There's just not a way to live a loving life without a source of love. And that source is not within yourself. You're not your own savior. God is love. He's the source of, love is not, it is the source of all life. Not just the breath in your lungs, but the life in your eyes, the vibrance in your life, the living. It's like fear never lives. Even though it breathes and walks around, it never lives. It's just trapped within itself. And love never dies. Like the people that love, like for generations, that love lives on in their families' lives. And God is love. Jesus is love. I mean, the way the whole thing gets started is the connection, like you often share, that you have to be grafted into the vine. Because if you don't have a source of love, you can be patient, you can be kind, you can choose to do these things, but without a source of love, you're not able to do them expecting nothing. You're really doing them to get something. So if we're these 7 things that love is, in order to get loved, eventually that's all going to come unraveled too. So it's really using love to get what we want. We've talked about that, but yeah, love starts with surrender, laying down your life, surrendering to love. His name is Jesus. Coming to understand his love for you. And Jesus didn't love you because of who you are, but because of who he is, and despite who you are. And then that teaches us how to love. So, yeah.
Well, I remember many, many years ago us talking about this, and what got my attention probably the most is when you ask the question, if I want to know if you love Tammy, don't ask you, but ask Tammy. And after I thought about that, it made so much sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had an old guy tell me one time, he said, if you want to know if a man loves his wife, look at his wife. Like, don't ask her, just watch her. And if she's has peace and joy, and if she's bright, then he's loving her. And there's some women that, I'm not saying that a woman couldn't be so loving that she could have a lot of that even without her husband loving her, but he's going to beat it down if he's failing to love her. And I'm not saying that, there's some cases that a man does everything he can to love his wife and she refuses to love, then, that may be missing, but it's a very good indicator that, if you're around loving people, or you're loved by your spouse, it's not usually hard to tell.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder. Well, this wraps up today's podcast. And next podcast, we will actually begin defining the elements that you talk about in chapter 6. We'll talk about love is patient. But until then, trust God's word no matter what.
Keep your eyes on the horizon.
Thanks for listening to the Right Fight podcast. Make sure to check out Kenny's book, The Right Fight, for more on how to live a loving life. It's available on their website, shieldsofstrength.com, Audible, and all digital platforms. If you have any questions for the podcast, you can email support@shieldsofstrength.com and put podcast as the subject. And make sure to follow Kenny on Instagram and TikTok @JohnKennedyVaughn. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.